Hey everybody, Last Camp Badger here. So, before I jump into it, 70% of y'all are still not subscribed. I don't know what to do at this point except tell you like, share, comment, and subscribe, then hit the real subscribe button, call the notification bell, so you get videos when I post them up. And then after that, please make sure you share on all your social media. That's the only way we beat the algorithm and fight YouTube for, the freedom to do what we want to do. Which sounds ridiculous, but whatever. Any shoe. So, we're returning to doing uploads whenever I can, especially since I'm sick. I got the Omicron, and I'm currently beating its butt. So let's go, y'all. All right, so you already know who's here. You already know who's going to be in here, and guess who's going to be? It's going to be MrBallen. MrBallen. All right, y'all ready for this? Someone in this photo has an evil secret. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. This is fresh off the press, y'all. Fresh out of San Diego. I think that's still the same. Y'all ready for this? I don't think I am. I honestly don't. But I love everything he does. So look, even if he even if someone just probably, even if his channel copyright claims us, or he decides to do it himself, you know what, I'd be somewhat okay-ish with it, as long as our channel doesn't get completely nuked. Then I wouldn't be happy, but let's jump in.
Fair warning, the ending to this story is very abrupt and very upsetting. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once or twice every week. So if that's of interest to you, please offer to curl the like button's hair for their wedding, but then repeatedly touch the top of their ear with the curling iron. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story. Strongsville, Ohio.
I still love MrBallen's intro. He's got the best intro, especially for what he does. I love his intro. Man, I don't know why, but I want some Copenhagen or Kodiak. Or Grizzly. I just want to put a fat lip in and just... you feel like doing weird stuff when you're sick.
Ohio used to be just another typical quiet American suburb. Nice homes, nice families, nice restaurants, and a mall. But in late 2017, a discovery was made in Strongsville that put this town on the map in the worst way possible. To understand this discovery, we need to go back to early 2016 when this town's nightmare began. In early 2016, two longtime Strongsville residents, Bruce and Melinda Pleskovic, received some very exciting news. Their 20-year-old fiance named...
Whoops, I messed that up. Let's go a little bit back.
Received some very exciting news. Their 20-year-old daughter named Anna and her 20-year-old fiance named Jeff had just told them they were expecting a baby girl. And so Bruce and Melinda were totally excited about the prospect of finally becoming grandparents, but at the same time, they knew Anna and Jeff did not have very much money. Anna still lived at home with Bruce and Melinda. She did have a job, but she made very little money. She was a waitress at a local Applebee's restaurant. And as for Jeff, he had a better job working as a service technician for a heating and air company, but he didn't have enough money to support him and Anna. In fact, he didn't even have enough money to move out of his parents' home. He was still living with them on the other side of Strongsville. And so this couple, they're really excited about their baby, but Bruce and Melinda are thinking, we really got to find a way to support them because they are just not prepared for this first child. And so Bruce and Melinda, they talked it over and they decided the best way to support this young couple was to tell their daughter if she wanted to, she could invite Jeff to come stay at their house. That way the two of them could be together, and once they had their daughter, Bruce and Melinda could be the great-grandparents and help take care of the baby, and in general, this would allow the couple to just continue to save money and move out when they were ready. And so when
I mean, look, I understand, like, a lot of people are going to say something like this. They're going to say, you're never truly ready for your first kid. For some of us, that's not the case, though. Like, take me, for instance. God damn, I'm like a crux for all this stuff. So, like, I'd been like helping to raise other people's children for freaking ever. Like, before I was even like in high school, I was helping out my family. I was raising my sister's kids, all of them, and I was supporting them every way I could. Y'all, a lot of y'all know the story already. But, thanks to that experience, thanks to that, that life, uh, uh, that learned thing with kids. I forget how I don't brain so good right now. um, Thanks to that, you know what? Almost at any point, I was ready to have a kid. I wasn't too worried about financial stuff because I knew that if I worked hard enough, because I accept reality, if I worked hard enough, I could make it anywhere I want to go. Which I ended up doing anyway. I wasn't worried about that. I wasn't worried about housing. Okay? By the time I had my son, it was too easy. Heck, sometimes it was suspiciously easy. Because I wanted to give in to that like parental urge, like, to be supremely anxious and nervous all the damn time. But I guess my rational brain and experience, with children, like, I put that in check, really strongly so. And like the woman would be freaking out about something minor, and I'd check, and it'd be something minor, and then I'd be like, look, this is what this is why, this is how, running her down the list of things so she understands this and doesn't freak out next time. And there were times where she was terrified because he would sleep so perfectly soundly. Like, he would just go to sleep. Other parents, they had a horrible, horrible time with their kids when they were infants. And I've had similar experience myself with that with my sister's kids. But my kid, suspiciously easy. He had his mama on her toes all the time. And now, instead of having her on her toes, he stomps on her toes whenever dad's not around. So there's that. But yeah, look. Some people are going to say, oh, you're never truly ready for a child. Well, that depends on what you've done. If you just treat kids as like an accessory to your existence, and you have a kid, that kid's going to have a shit time. Guarantee that. Guarantee that. Now, if you accept that you have a duty, obligation, and responsibility as a parent, and that you choosing to do what you did to lead to you creating another life, like, burdens you with that responsibility, then if you embrace it instead of being like, oh, no, it's bad for me because I won't live my best life. If you do the opposite of that, okay, and you realize that you are bringing in the next notch on the cycle, and you do the damnedest and bestest that you can, that kid's going to have a good time. There's a difference between a parent and someone who just keeps something else alive. So yeah. Oh yeah, and for all the people who are going to comment, oh, you're talking too long, blah, 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 then don't watch. Plain and simple. Don't watch. Any issue. Second point, real quick. Is that some people will say, okay, they're failures already. They're going to have a kid, but now they're like poor and destitute, basically. Well, sometimes you can't help that. Like if you live in a place like LA, unless you're already rich, it's going to be hard to get rich. It's going to be hard to make enough money to survive. LA is stupid because it's run by Democrats. The stupidest people on the planet are Democrats. And I used to be one of them. Maybe that's why I'm so stupid. Any shoe. But yeah, in some places there's no upward mobility. So it makes sense for a mom and pop to be like, look guys, y'all don't have it right now. So until y'all have it, stay with us. Be safe. Stay with us, okay? At the same time, it could be a bad thing because their struggle to learn how to navigate through life is kind of being alleviated from them. And that's a necessity of life, is to struggle and suffer. Otherwise, you don't learn anything. Anyway, let's keep going. Enough of me ranting.
So when they told Anna they were willing to do this, Anna was so happy. She was so grateful. She called Jeff, and Jeff was equally happy and grateful and said, yes, I would love to move in with you guys. So it took several months, but finally in June of 2016, which was the same month that Jeff and Anna welcomed their daughter to the world, Jeff would leave his parents' home and move into Bruce and Melinda's home. And almost immediately after he moved in, he and the rest of Anna's family began experiencing some very strange and disturbing things around their property. Just a few days after Jeff had moved in, he and Anna were home alone. They were on the main floor of the house and they were having dinner at the kitchen table. And at some point, Jeff just happened to glance out one of the back windows that looked out into their backyard. And now this property had this huge sprawling backyard. Basically, they had all these houses kind of in a row, and they all had almost like a communal backyard, this big open space. And so Jeff is looking out into this huge backyard, and he sees off in the distance something strange. He doesn't really know what he's looking at because it's nighttime, it's dark, but he stands up and he walks over to the window, and as he's looking out, he sees way off on the backside of their property are these four strangers just standing there appearing to be smoking something, and they're just kind of looking up at the Pleskovic house. And so Jeff is looking out the window at these four, not really sure what to make of them, and he calls Anna over, and so Anna walks over, and the two of them are looking out, not really sure what to do. I mean, on the one hand, these four people who they clearly didn't know, or they believed they didn't know, were definitely trespassing. But at the same time, they weren't really doing anything. They were just kind of standing there smoking. But as they're watching these...
It's a cult. It's a cult. It's a cult. It's a cult. Or just a group of, very bad, malicious people. Yeah, that's still a cult. Okay. It's a cult.
people, one of them begins walking up the property towards their home and then stops alongside the Pleskovic trampoline, which was in their backyard. And this person begins fiddling with the trampoline. And so at this, Anna's like, you know what? I don't know what they're doing. I feel totally uncomfortable. And so Anna would actually call the police. And so the police, they come out. But by the time the squad car arrived in front of the Pleskovic house, the four people in back must have seen the car and they took off running. And so when the police officer went in the backyard and looked around, there was no one there, and there was also no sign they were there. There was no dropped cigarette butts or anything. They just kind of vanished. And so the police officer told Jeff and Anna, if they come back, let us know. And so the officer left. And then a little while later, when Bruce and Melinda came home, Jeff and Anna would tell them about what happened, and they would agree that that was totally strange, that in all the decades they had lived in Strongsville, they had never had anybody stroll onto their property and just loiter in the middle of the night. And so for the next couple of days,
Okay, at this point, I'm having a hard time deciding if this is like a haunting or if it's like, mom and pop are involved with some shady people. That's my immediate thought. Because, the kids, they saw somebody in the backyard. But mom and pop are like, oh, we've never heard of anything happening on this property ever like that ever. which yes, there's a first time for everything. But if these people are specifically coming up to this house, usually that's because they have some interest in it, onto this property. There is really no true randomization of selection. There's no true essence of that, if I can make that clear. Let me know if I'm messing that up, because I don't think I'm explaining it very, very good. Yeah, like, something's it feels way too wrong. Guess we'll find out.
The family was definitely on edge, but after a little while, this whole incident was largely forgotten about. Fast forward about 5 months to November 2016, and Anna was home alone with her young daughter, and she's playing with her daughter on the first floor of the house towards the front of the house. And as she's playing with her daughter, she suddenly hears what sounds like someone trying to open the back sliding glass door on the back of the house. And so instinctively, Anna thinks, okay, Jeff must be out there, or my parents must be out there, and they don't have a key or something. And so she scoops up her daughter and she begins walking towards the back of the house to open this door for them. And when she walks into one of the back rooms, before she reaches the back door, she happens to look out one of the windows that looked out into the backyard. And standing right up against the glass is this unknown male figure with his face pressed up against the glass. And so Anna just freezes and stares at this guy. And then this guy, he notices Anna and he ducks down out of view. And now Anna's thinking to herself, this is the guy. He must have been trying to break in my back door. I'm home alone. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if he's going to try to break in again. And so she just turns and runs back towards the front of the house. She runs upstairs. She goes in a bedroom. She locks the door and she calls the police. But by the time the police come out there and they look around, they can't find this unknown figure that was at the back of the house. And there's no sign of an attempted forced entry. And so unfortunately, they told her, look, I'm sure this was very traumatic for you, but there's really nothing we can do here. There's no evidence to suggest who did this. And so please just, keep your house locked. And if you see anybody suspicious on your property, call us back. And so naturally, after the police left and Anna had a chance to contact Jeff and her parents, they were horrified and they rushed home to comfort her. And then after the initial shock of this incident had worn off, the family began to speculate, do you think this might be connected to those 4 strangers we saw on our property a few months ago? It just seems odd that those two things would happen so close together. And then the family began to think, okay, well then who is this person? Who are these people? What do they want? Why are they targeting us? What's going on? Because as it was, the Pleskovic family, they didn't have any enemies, at least none that they knew of. If anything, the people of Strongsville adored this family, especially Melinda, the mother. For the past 20 plus years, she had been a middle school teacher in town and her students adored her. She was also
something that a lot of people need to understand. There's no such thing as not having any enemies. That's not possible. You know why? There's literally someone that is your enemy just by dint of your existence. That is a guarantee. So this whole thing, like nobody has any enemies kind of stuff, always bothers me. Because it's such an unrealistic, it's incredibly unrealistic to look at. It's an unrealistic thing to assume that nobody has enemies. No, that is not the case at all.
Also a big-time soccer coach in the community because she had played in college and she was still very passionate about it. So she was this amazing coach. And in the eyes of many parents in the Strongsville community, Melinda was a bit of an inspiration because she was not only the mother to Anna, she was also the mother of an 18-year-old boy named Kyle who had Down syndrome and was nonverbal. And Melinda just had this unbelievable way with him where she was so good to him. She incorporated him in everything. She got him so involved. She gave him the best life he could possibly have. And so anytime you saw Kyle with his mother, Kyle would be all smiles. Even though Kyle couldn't speak, it was so obvious his mother made him incredibly happy. But regardless of the reason for these strangers to be lurking around their property, the Pleskovic family was now totally on edge and found themselves constantly looking out the windows, especially at night, in fear these strangers were going to come back and might try to break in again. And unfortunately, these strangers would come back.
And this is where, like, people, like, should not compromise on safety and security, and that's why I'm adamant about that. You should be armed. And if you're in a place that doesn't allow you to be armed, you should move places. You should move places. Leave. Get away. If you're somewhere that restricts your freedom, that imposes law upon you, that doesn't allow you to defend yourself or to secure your own house, because locks on doors and stuff only go so far. They only stop so much. So you need to be armed. But, you know, what do I know? I'm just a caveman. But yeah, like, the thing here is that what have they responded with the entire time? Call the police, call the police, call the police. Okay? Technically, this is only legal in castle states that have castle doctrine, where your house is your castle. But they want to break in. Okay, I'm going to wait right across with a loaded firearm. If they find a way to get into my house and they force their way into my house, they have become a threat and a danger to my family. They've turned into a target for me. Every other consideration under the planet be damned. I don't care. Once you've made yourself a threat to my family's safety and security, you no longer get any sympathy or empathy from me. But, you know, this family, so far, they've only responded with calling the police, and that's it. So I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that Ohio probably has some fudgy, at the very least, kind of gun laws. Or this family is just, I don't know. Look, I'm biased, okay? I'm biased. If you decide to be unarmed because you're foolish, then it's hard for me to feel bad one way or the other, or good one way or the other. Like, I don't know.
In January of 2017, so 2 months after Anna saw that unknown figure at the window and heard the back door sliding around, Bruce's car was broken into. It was sitting in the driveway of their property. Someone got inside of it and stole his laptop. And so Bruce, he calls the police and he says, you know, I've got to believe this has to do with the people that are harassing my family. And the police believed him and they began looking around and asking around, but they could never track down the laptop or the thief. And so once again, the family was kind of left on their own. And the police said, look, you know, if you see anything else, let us know. But there's not much we can do here. A few months later, in July of that year, Anna, Jeff, and their daughter were all home together one night when Anna happened to look out one of the back windows on their first floor, and out on the very back of the property were 3 strangers just standing in that same spot where they saw those 4 strangers smoking the year before. And these 3 strangers are just standing there looking up at the house. And so horrified, Anna calls out to Jeff and says, look, there are 3 people in the back of our property. And so Anna, she pulls out her phone and she's calling the police. And as she's calling the police, police, Jeff, who's totally upset that there are these people harassing him and his family and making them feel unsafe, he just grabs a flashlight and storms out the back door to go confront these people. But as soon as Jeff went out the back door, before he could even shine the light on them, the three people had turned and ran and vanished. And so finally, when the police did show up, they were aware of all the calls they had gotten from this family. And so they went out there and they did a serious search for these three strangers, but like always, nothing was found. And so the family once again was told, if you see anything else, let us know. The following month, which was August, Anna was home with her daughter, along with her mother, who was upstairs. And as Anna is in the front of the house in the playroom with her daughter, she hears the sound of somebody trying to open that back sliding door. And now immediately her radar is up because she knows what happened the last time she heard the sound. There was that person in the window. But she's thinking, okay, I can't just immediately call the police. I need to at least look and see if there's someone that I know at the back door. And so
Okay, so his response is to just grab a flashlight and go confront three people that you don't know if they're armed or not. Just because you're unarmed does not mean they're unarmed also. You must assume at all times that if you come across somebody, they're armed in some way. Especially in this kind of a situation. You must assume they are armed. Therefore, you should arm yourself as well. He was going to run out there with just a flashlight. That's foolish beyond the pale. Way foolish. And then what she's doing now? Look, I get it. I get it. I really do. They've probably lived some kind of like posh and soft, ignorance is bliss type of lifestyle up till now. So all this is fresh and new to them. Suddenly learning that people can be, that it can happen to them too. Because a lot of people go around with this mentality of like, oh, this is just something that happens to somebody else. It'll never happen to me. And then reality likes to give people really cold slaps in the face. Bub.
And so she scoops her daughter up, she stands up, and she walks around to the edge of the room she's in, and she kind of peeks her head down this hallway that will give her a clear view of this backsliding glass door. And once she finally has a full view of whoever is there, she screams because there are two large adults, as she would say, standing at the back door trying to force open this door. And so when she screams, these two strangers, they hear it, they turn around and they run. And Melinda, she was upstairs, she hears her daughter screaming, she comes flying downstairs, she's trying to figure out what's going on. Anna is hysterical, the baby's crying, and so Melinda actually calls the police about what her daughter has just seen. The police come out, they search the property, they can't find anyone, and so again, the police leave and they tell the family, look, I'm sorry this is happening to you, but we can't do anything. So please just let us know if anything else happens and we'll be out here as soon as we can. We're bound to catch these people, but right now we just don't have much to operate on. The following month, which was September, one of Melinda's car keys would go missing. And whoever had these keys, whoever had stolen these keys, would use it to randomly start Melinda's car in the middle of the night. And they also used it to set off her car alarm at odd hours of the night. And then also during this time frame that her keys were missing, they also discovered that there were nails jammed into the tires of Bruce's car. And so of course, the family calls the police and tells them about what's going on, but the police can't do anything. And so very frustrated, Melinda actually takes to Facebook and posts that someone's stolen her keys and please just give them back. And just overall, she's pleading with whoever is harassing her family to just leave them alone. But
when it comes to bad people, okay, malicious people, people with malign intent, you cannot at all plead to them. You can't. It will never work. It never works. Oh, man. And this is a common thing. This is a common thing that reinforces, like, the notion, okay, that weak people are subject to the strong. That's an unfortunate thing about reality, is that is true. That's very true. If you are weak, you're going to do stuff like this. If you're a soft person, okay, it usually does not go down too easily or too well. You can be nice, you can be courteous, you can be what do you call it? I can't words right now. But that doesn't mean to be weak. And that's what this is. Weak. Weakness. Because you think begging and pleading with someone who is dead set and determined to cause you some kind of harm is going to do anything? Look, all this is doing, all this would do is to make you an even bigger target. The common theme when it comes to malicious, despicable, evil people, okay, is that they will pick soft targets over hard targets. Every single time. Every time. Okay? Whether it be a concert where everybody's screened so that they can't have weapons in the concert, or a place where security is not even armed, okay? Or, the house of a family that doesn't believe in safety and security. They will always pick on those that they find weak. Always. Again, soft targets versus hard targets. This whole family's a soft target. A super soft target. And it's not going to end well. It never does.
But unfortunately, this post would not do anything. The harassment would continue. A month later, on October 19th, Jeff was home alone when he heard the sound of the backsliding glass door rattling, and now he knows that every time this has been heard by Anna, that there's always some stranger at the back door. And so Jeff grabs the family dog, and he very carefully turns and looks down that hallway towards the back door to see who this is, and right as he pokes his head out, he sees there's this large adult figure with a hood up trying to open this back door. And so the dog sees this person and starts barking and running towards the door. Jeff runs after the dog, and this big person outside who's trying to break in, he sees the dog, he sees Jeff running, and he turns and he runs away. And so Jeff and the dog, they stay inside the house and they watch this guy just take off across the property and disappear into the trees. And Jeff would call the police, but like always, the police came out and there just was nothing they could do. 4 days later, on October 23rd, Jeff, along with his young daughter and Bruce, they went to the local Applebee's where Anna worked to have dinner there and have Anna wait on them. And then after they were done eating, they said their goodbyes to Anna, they left the restaurant, they hopped in their cars, and they drove back to their house. When they got there, Bruce was the first up the steps, and he got to the front door and it was locked, and so he knocked, and Kyle, his son, he came and unlocked the door. Bruce went inside, followed close closely behind by Jeff, who was holding his daughter. They get inside, and Bruce walks through the house to the back of the house where the kitchen is. He flips on the lights, and there's something on the kitchen floor. And when Jeff sees it, he immediately turns around and runs out of the house carrying his daughter. He grabs Kyle along the way and just takes them straight out of the house. And then once Jeff was outside, he called 911. And when you listen to his 911 call, it sounds like Jeff is unable to process what he has just seen.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
Somebody's been attacked in my house.
Somebody's been what?
Attacked.
They attacked who? Who was attacked?
Mel Pleskovic. Mel Pleskovic was attacked.
He was attacked by whom? Do you know?
She was. No, we just came home. She's on the kitchen floor.
Jeff and Bruce had just discovered Melinda lying on the kitchen floor. She'd been stabbed over 35 times and shot 3 times. She would be rushed to the hospital, but she would die that night. Although the family was in shock and couldn't even begin to process what had just happened, they were all acutely aware that whoever had done this to Melinda had to be connected to all of these strange and suspicious people that had been lurking around their property for the better part of 2 years. In fact, literally after Jeff had called 911, Bruce was inside in the kitchen kneeling next to his dying wife, and he called 911, and he would tell the dispatcher that the Strongsville Police Department really dropped the ball.
911, what city is the emergency in?
Please come to 1 for Blazing Star. I think my wife's dead. Someone, we've had people breaking into our f***ing house,
sir,
and now someone f***ing killed her.
Sir, tell me the city you need to talk to.
Strongsville, Ohio.
Okay, you need to be transferred. Don't hang up.
911, what's the city of your emergency?
Strongsville, Ohio. We have people on the way already.
What's the address?
For Blazing Star. I think someone killed my wife.
You think someone killed your wife?
Yeah, it looks like she has stab wounds on her back. We've had people trying to break into our house all year. Stealing.
Sir, I need to ask you questions, okay? Are you there right now?
I just got in the door with my new son-in-law. My son Kyle was here with her.
Sir, what I want you to do is walk outside.
Wait a minute. Kyle was home with his mom. What the heck was Kyle doing this whole time? What was Kyle doing this whole time? Where was he? Was he like, upstairs, like in bed or something? Like, where has Kyle been? Because he said that when he came into the door, his son Kyle unlocked the door, then they went into the kitchen, and then they found Mel. So, where has Kyle been? Where has Kyle been? This seems incredibly... There's something very wrong here. There's something very wrong.
The Strongsville Police Department would come out in force for this case, and they would solve it in just 4 days. And when they went public with who killed Melinda, no one could believe it. Back on October 23rd, so this was the night Melinda was discovered, Jeff, along with his young daughter and Melinda and her son Kyle, they were all together in the house, and at some point, Jeff had put his daughter down in her playpen and then went into the kitchen where Melinda was, and he walked up to her, pulled out a knife, and stabbed her over 35 times. And then when Melinda fell to the ground, Jeff drew a gun and shot her 3 additional times to make sure she was dead. Now, while he was doing this, his daughter is literally just a few feet away, and Kyle, presumably, is also right nearby, but he has no way of understanding what's happening to his mother. And so...
Oh, that's right. That's right. Kyle is like, oh my lord, I'm not braining too good. But Kyle is unable to understand what's... Okay. That makes a lot more sense. That makes more sense. But what... Let's keep going.
And so with these two totally innocent lives just right nearby, Jeff would clean off his weapons and he'd take off his bloody clothes and he would hide them inside of his car. And then he would just scoop up his daughter and he would leave the house, leaving Kyle alone in the house with his dying mother in the kitchen, just leaves him there, shuts the door, locks it, and then Jeff and his daughter would drive to Applebee's to have dinner with Melinda's husband and her daughter. And then after several hours, when they got back to the property, Jeff knew what was waiting for them inside, and he still allowed Bruce to go inside first and discover his dying wife on the kitchen floor. Very little is known about why Jeff did this, because Jeff has actually never come out and given his motive for the crime. The running theory is that Jeff actually was not going to be able to pay for the wedding, which was coming up in a couple of days, and the wedding venue had actually contacted Melinda and said, hey, we're canceling the wedding because your future son-in-law can't pay for it. And so Melinda apparently confronted Jeff about his financial troubles, and the theory is he snapped and killed her. However, that can't possibly be the entire story for why he did this, because it would turn out Jeff was found to be responsible for literally every single suspicious event that had taken place around the Pleskovic property leading up to the attack. Meaning, every time they had seen strangers lurking around their property or people trying to break into their house, that had been because of Jeff. Either it was literally Jeff outside being one of these suspicious people, or he had asked friends or hired someone or groups of people to pretend to be suspicious people on the property, or Jeff had been the only person to see these suspicious people, and then miraculously when other people attempted to look outside, they were gone. And so obviously Jeff was lying. And so I actually had the opportunity to speak with one of Jeff's childhood friends who was actually living roughly in the Strongsville area when this horrible murder took place. And what this person told me is that what is kind of generally accepted as why Jeff did this, according to the people in Strongsville, is that Jeff apparently loathed Melinda. Even though she had opened her house to him, he loathed her. And as soon as he moved in 2016, he began plotting to kill her. And so all of these suspicious events were Jeff's attempt at building this really intricate alibi that they had these strangers out there that were targeting this family, and so that when she would ultimately be killed by him, it would look like these strangers had done it. And at first, it totally worked. Everybody believed, the police, the family, friends, that strangers had broken into the house and killed Melinda. In fact, there was so little suspicion on Jeff after her murder that Jeff actually served as a pallbearer in Melinda's funeral. But ultimately, the police would discover the knife and some bloody clothes in the back of Jeff's car, and so they would arrest him and they would present this mountain of evidence against him, and Jeff would confess to killing Melinda. However, he wouldn't give any additional information about the crime. He would just basically say, yes, I did kill her. He would also never give an apology or explanation to the family. He would ultimately be sentenced to life in prison with the opportunity for parole after 33 years. During Jeff's trial, there was this totally heartbreaking moment when Bruce, Melinda's husband, spoke, and he would say their son, Kyle, does not understand that his mother is gone. And so now, every time they go out to eat, which is something Kyle really likes to do, and he used to love doing with his mother, he'll just sit and stare out the window, eagerly expecting his mother to show up any minute. But of course, she never does. So that's going to do it, guys. If you got something out of today's episode,
Okay, it makes a lot more sense now. So, look, Jeff, obviously a loser. Obviously a loser. When I heard about how he had like severe money troubles, I assumed I just did a blanket assumption, and I was like, okay, maybe there's some problem with where they live. But that does not account for poor decision making. Okay? I've lived in places where it's damn near impossible to make it anywhere, but I still was able to provide for myself. I did whatever I had to do to make it work. Now, am I saying I'm a winner? Not really. I'm just saying that, well, I'm a practicalist, and I'm a survivalist, and I'm a realist. But this dude, it would make sense that he loathed her. Because she probably expected more of him. She probably expected a lot more of him. Especially since he was going to marry her daughter. And so, since he was most like, look, this is me speculating. I don't know for sure anything, okay? So take this with a grain of salt. But she was probably pressuring him to become more, and he did not want to. And just her trying to do that, and him being a loser, that probably set the fires of rage. That's probably why he loathed her. Because she wanted him to do more and be more, and he didn't want to. And then that's why he wasn't able to afford doing the wedding stuff. That's why he wasn't trying. He was not trying. It makes sense now why he was more than willing to take just a flashlight and to run outside to these strangers, unarmed, because he knew them. That makes a lot more sense. He knew those people, and he knew exactly what was going on. He wanted her off his back. So being a loser, he went with the solution that was the easiest thing he could think of. It's easy to do bad. It's easy to do evil. It really is. It's hard to be good. It's hard to be morally just. And it's hard, very hard, to admit that you are failing. To see it, recognize it, and accept it, and to learn and improve from that. It's very hard. So him being a loser, he was like, nope, F that. I don't want to, do better, be better, and all this stuff. It's too hard. I'll do the easier thing. God, such an insipid mentality. And he was probably trying to figure out some way to maybe cash in on that. Maybe. That's me. It's me speculating again. It's just me speculating. But all of it makes more sense now. A large adult male. He's definitely a big boy. Definitely a big boy. So, yeah, this all ties in at the end. Jeez. Bub. He would be somebody I would more than be willing to see get the chair.
today's episode and you haven't done this already, please offer to curl the like button's hair for their wedding, but then repeatedly touch the top of their ear with the curling iron. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly 1 or 2 video uploads. We are now selling merchandise like flannels and hats and sweatshirts and all sorts of stuff. If you're interested, go to shopmrballen.com. If you want to learn about upcoming deals and promotions for our shop, go to our shop's Instagram page. The username is just shopmrballen. If you want to get in touch with me, you can direct message me on Instagram or on Twitter. My username for both platforms is the same. It's just MrBallen. I also have a ton of content over on TikTok where my username is also MrBallen. We also have a second YouTube channel just called MrBallen Shorts where we post random short videos and lost episodes. We also have a Facebook page just called MrBallen where we post condensed versions of the longer episodes you see on YouTube. If you have a story suggestion, please submit it to our subreddit just called MrBallen. It's linked in the description below. So whether I see you on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, Facebook, or some combination, just know that I really appreciate your support. And until next time, that's going to do it. See ya.
There we go, folks. There we go. Apologies if I'm just like kind of rambling through a good amount of the video. Like I said, I don't brain too good right now. My one functioning brain cell is being melted as we speak. But I'm going to kick Omicron's butt, I tell you what. Anywho, there we go. There we go. What did y'all think? What did y'all think? You know, when I was wondering where Kyle was earlier, I was like, I forgot that Kyle is as he is. And I was assuming that maybe he was like, you know, upstairs doing something. And then just came downstairs, didn't even go in the kitchen, and just unlocked the door for his dad. So, you know, I was like, where has he been? What, like, would he not have heard or seen something? And so I was assuming, maybe he had like what I'm doing. Earbuds in, door shut, you know, and I could barely hear anything outside the door because I tried to, like, you know, kind of sound absorb my, this office. So there's that. So that's what I was going for there. I was like, but where has Kyle been? Anyway, yeah. So there we have it, folks. There we have it. So what do y'all think? What do y'all think? Am I not braining too good, so it's not good? It's not good enough? Or, you know, was I just following, like, where my brain was going? Which was basically nowhere, but somewhere, I think. I don't know. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? Y'all let me know in the comments down below. Okay, y'all know what time it is. I hope y'all are having a good New Year's so far. But yeah, y'all know what time it is. So if you like MrBallen, you like hearing cautionary tales, you like me, you hate me, whatever, then please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Then hit the real subscribe button called notification bell. So you get notifications when I post something up. Comment down below which one we cover next if you're a member of the channel. Or if you're a first commenter, you get to request what's in the next upload if I'm able to manage one. And then, you know, please share on all your social medias, you know, even your AOL and your Yahoo chat room and your Netscape forum and 9gag or 9chan, whatever. 4chan, I think, is still around. I don't know. Anywho. Well, that's it. Be good. Seriously. Be good. We have enough evil people in the world. Be good and really think about what that means. Being good doesn't just mean, you know, be all things to all people. It doesn't mean that. Be safe. Never compromise on safety and security. Never do so. Even in your own home. And make a good life for yourselves. We've got a new year going on. Plenty of opportunity to improve, do better, and to, insulate ourselves as best we can against these hard times we're falling into. And so, yeah. There we go, folks. That's it. And I will see y'all either in a live stream today or on Discord or Twitch or something. So look forward to that. And I will see y'all in a little bit.